Chapter 6, Assessment and Differentiated Instruction in the Transitional Kindergarten Classroom. Well-defined goals, social-emotional development, fine and gross motor skills, as well as academic expectations will guide school administrators and transitional kindergarten teachers as they select assessment measures.
How do we define learning expectations for this age group, for 4-year-olds turning 5? And so the California Department of Education recently put out a document aligning early learning frameworks to the California content standards and to the Common Core state standards. So this was a really wonderful tool in terms of helping us look at children developmentally. This gave us a tool to say, wait a minute, we need to look at where children fall on this learning continuum and build a program that's appropriate to continue their learning journey in a really developmental and practical way.
We began developing our assessments. We wanted a new approach, and we wanted our teachers to be prepared with the developmental standards for what it takes when a student is entering at 4. What are their fine motor skills, their gross motor skills, their social-emotional needs.
Preschools give an assessment of the 4-year-olds twice a year. That assessment data is actually given to our kindergarten teachers. So we know what the children already know coming in. That helps us in planning instruction. So again, that wonderful partnership, working together.
Formal and informal assessments. The California Department of Education has created a Desired Results Developmental Profile School Readiness Assessment Instrument, also known as DRDP-SR, for transitional kindergarten and kindergarten teachers. This tool can provide useful information to address children's learning and developmental needs over time. The DRDP-SR is an observation tool that can be used by teachers to observe students in routine classroom activities within the first 8 weeks of school and again in the spring. In addition, there are many other assessment tools, both formal and informal, that teachers use to record all aspects of student progress.
All teachers have assessments that they typically use, but oftentimes these assessments really give a very narrow snapshot of a child. So observation became a big tool for us in transitional kindergarten. It's something that our preschool world is very familiar with. So the observational tools that have been implemented gives us this developmental progression, an opportunity for teachers to capture authentic learning that really reflects the whole child.
I have a formal assessment package that our district has asked us to use, and I have been able to put that on our computer, so it's very kid-friendly, and I can walk around the room and we can be sitting on the carpet, so they don't have to leave what they're doing and come to a formal sitting with me. That would be my formal assessment. And then the informal assessment, I'm just watching what they're doing, how they're using their hands. During math activities, are they counting 1-to-1 matching? Are they able to write the letters? Are they still writing from top to bottom?
I do a lot of note-taking on my students, and that has evolved over time as well. I have multiple different systems, but just sitting down and reflecting at the end of the day, and there may be something that I saw happening, something that I was directly a part of, but just keeping that log going, then being able to go back to that and look at, okay, over the last month's time, wow, look at all these different things that have happened. So that's a really important piece, is the record keeping.
We have checklists that we use, when we are observing. And then we have our formal assessments where we actually have an assessment card and we'll do one-on-one assessment with the children.
I use anecdotal records and I do some testing for the very basic academic skills. I take lots of photographs and we keep portfolios for each child. I even do videos sometimes and capture some of their language. When I take notes, I'm usually using just a little Post-it note and jotting down what I see. And I try to be an observer, and I think about how they are interacting with the other children and sort of categorize what I've seen and what I've recorded. For example, I might see someone getting very angry and expressing that anger, and I might write down a note about what they've said in that anger and then what they're doing about that anger. If I see them self-regulating and going to the hideaway to take a break and recover and then come out and talking, I know that they're well on their way to having some self-regulation.
To meet the differentiated needs of each child, TK teachers thoughtfully and intentionally use evidence from ongoing assessments to plan, implement, and reflect upon their instruction.
Through these assessments, I make my weekly goals, how to differentiate my lessons, which students need just letter sounds, which students are ready to read, which students are on the borderline between letter sounds and blending.
I do a lot with spreadsheets, so I keep track of the class as a whole, and then I know how I'm going to change in my teaching so that the class is getting what they need for kindergarten.
Okay, this is where they're at, this is where they need to be, this is kind of what they're lacking, this is what they're strong in. And so based on that is kind of how you go ahead and address their needs. There might be a certain children who might not be catching on to the numbers as quickly or the one-to-one correspondence counting. You pull a group, maybe about 2 or 3, and they'll concentrate on a specific skill that you see that they might be lacking.
During a shared reading activity, I might ask their help in coming up to find a letter. Then there might be other students that are ready for more of a challenge, and they'll come up and they'll be looking for a word. And the differentiated instruction at my small group, I've spent enough time watching them in the classroom and spending some time on assessment to find out what they're ready for. How many letters they know, do they know their sounds, are they ready for sight words, can they handle a book?
Ongoing parent-teacher communication provides opportunities for in-depth conversations about student progress. This dialogue can happen either at informal meetings or during regularly scheduled formal conferences.
When families walk into the classroom, they see a lot of play happening, they see happiness, and that makes them feel good in their heart. But the question is, how are they developing academically? So my group and I, we looked at the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and they have great resources for teachers to look at the value of play and how to take what's happening during play, look at the skills that children are actually practicing and developing, and translating that into something that an adult would be able to understand.
Parents are very concerned about their children at this age, so we've made a real big effort to try to make sure that communication is constant and consistent with parents. We've taken a more developmental approach to learning the academics in our transitional kindergartens. We like to call them progress reports because we recognize that students develop at different rates at this age, and we want to be sure not to put pressure on these young students to feel like they have to be at a certain milestone at a certain time, because much of the curriculum is curiosity driven, and we want to give these students time to develop, but also to learn the foundational skills they need to be successful.
We have developed a report card for our district that places children on a continuum of their progress in TK, and it differs from kindergarten because kindergarten report cards expect mastery of skills. Our TKA report card has a large section for the social and emotional development and their self-regulation skills, and it has a large section for motor skills, and that's not the same as kindergarten. They don't have those large sections.
It's nice to be able to say, we're doing these things now because this is where you want your child to be at the end of next year.
When they see the second year, it's a world of difference. It's a whole different environment for the classroom. The curriculum that they're working with is much more advanced, and the parents have responded very positively.
There is still a very big difference between folks who understand what transitional kinder is because their child is in it, and they are the biggest fans you will ever find. And then you will still find others who still don't understand what it is. It's really something that until your kid is in it, in those tender years, that it's hard to quite grasp, because it is something distinct from what most of our parents had as an early learning experience.